You wake up one morning, and something feels off. It's brighter than usual. Way brighter. The sunlight doesn't just hit you, it punches you in the face. You pull the curtains closed. Doesn't help. You look outside. And that's when your brain short circuits. There are two suns. Not a reflection, not a hallucination. A brand new star just like ours hanging in the sky. Same size, same glow, same I'm about to melt your planet energy. Within minutes. Chaos. Shadows vanish literally. No shade, no night, no cool side of anything. The sky turns white hot. The air flickers like liquid. And the global temperature spikes faster than your Wi-Fi router when you open Netflix in 4K. Animals panic. Crops start burning. Satellites lose orbit. And sunscreen companies suddenly become trillion-dollar empires. For about 2 hours. Until everyone's dead. But hold on. What would actually happen if a second sun appeared in our solar system right next to ours? Could Earth survive it? Would both suns orbit each other? Would we get double daylight or double death? Today, let's find out what happens when the solar system goes multiplayer and our quiet little sky suddenly turns into a cosmic microwave oven. The first thing you notice isn't the light, it's the heat. Within the first hour of Earth getting a second sun, the global temperature spikes by almost 85 degrees. The air turns thick and heavy. Humidity skyrockets, and clouds gone. Every water droplet that tries to form instantly evaporates. The blue sky fades into blinding white. Congratulations, you now live inside a tanning bed the size of a planet. If the second sun were the same size and distance as ours, that means Earth is suddenly getting twice the solar radiation, about 2,700 watts per square meter. That's enough to boil oceans, melt glaciers, and make Antarctica look like Florida. The ozone layer, your skin's invisible bodyguard, doesn't stand a chance. The ultraviolet flood tears it apart like tissue paper. Within days, Earth's surface becomes uninhabitable. Step outside for more than 3 minutes, and your DNA starts glitching like a corrupted hard drive. And if you think you can hide in the shade, bad news. Shadows don't exist anymore. Two light sources mean every shadow gets filled in from the other direction. No cool spots, no safe corners, even under a bridge. You'd glow like a Christmas ornament. Then gravity joins the chaos. Two suns close enough to both light up our sky would pull at each other instantly. Their combined gravity would yank Earth's orbit like a coin caught between two magnets. One week, we'd roast alive. The next, we'd freeze in deep space. The moon gone. Either slingshotted out of orbit or ripped apart by tidal forces. The tides go insane. Oceans don't rise and fall, they heave. Whole coastlines vanish. Continents fracture. Earthquakes become as common as weather reports. Meanwhile, plants freak out. For a few short hours, they photosynthesize like they just discovered caffeine, pumping oxygen like mad until their cells rupture from radiation overload. Forests ignite. Oceans steam. And carbon floods the air again. Nature just did climate change at 10x speed. In orbit, satellites die first. Solar panels overload. Circuits melt. Trajectories warp. Communication goes down. The International Space Station becomes a shiny toaster. The dark side of Earth doesn't exist anymore. The entire planet glows 247 eternal daylight. And without night, humans begin to fall apart. Your circadian rhythm, the internal clock that tells you when to sleep, collapses. No melatonin, no rest. Just billions of exhausted, sunburned people slowly going insane under a sky that never dims. In short, if a second sun appeared out of nowhere, Earth wouldn't last long enough to post about it. Within a week, the average surface temperature would soar past 200 degrees. Oceans would begin to boil, and the planet would look like the inside of a brick oven. So yeah, two suns might look cool until you realize you've just turned Earth into Mercury's angry older brother. The first week is chaos, but the second is extinction in slow motion. As the second sun settles into the sky, Earth becomes a planet that no longer knows balance. The air thickens with heat and dust. Light has no direction anymore. It pours from every angle, swallowing shadows, bleaching color, burning away the memory of night. The blue sky of Earth fades into a pale, metallic white. Clouds disintegrate before they can form. Every horizon shimmers like liquid glass. Oceans, once deep and calm, begin to boil at the equator. Steam rises in colossal sheets, drifting into the stratosphere where it condenses into bands of radiant mist. What used to be rain clouds now reflect light instead of blocking it, creating an endless glare. The planet glows. From space, Earth no longer looks blue, it shines like a pearl under a torch. On the surface, heat defines everything. Within days, the temperature stabilizes around 200 degrees and keeps rising. The oceans release their oxygen, coral reefs crumble into white dust, rivers shrink into glowing cracks, and fish cook alive before the water can vanish. Beaches melt into glass, forests erupt into flame, their own leaves igniting under direct radiation. The air is heavy with the scent of carbon and salt, and the smoke can no longer rise, it's too hot, too dense. It clings to the lower atmosphere, painting the planet with a faint amber haze. Trees, even in the Arctic Circle, lose their color, their moisture, their meaning. Grasslands go gray. What remains of vegetation mutates into strange, silver-tinted husks that reflect sunlight like mirrors. A desperate biological trick to stay alive for just a few more days. Animals react with confusion first, then desperation. Birds lose their instinct to migrate. There's no cool direction left to fly. The heat distorts the air so completely that sound travels in waves, bending and breaking. Insects vanish almost instantly. Mammals shed their fur, only to find bare skin offers no protection. Herds of deer, elephants, and wolves collapse under skies that never dim. Reptiles, once masters of heat, suffocate in air that carries no moisture. Humans retreat. Cities darken as power grids die under the twin assault of radiation and electromagnetic interference. Solar panels burst, transformers melt, and the last flicker of artificial light fades beneath a sky that never sleeps. Streets empty. Asphalt softens underfoot, releasing a stench of oil. Metal warps. Windows explode from thermal stress. The modern world melts into its own skeleton towers of twisted steel. Roads turned to rivers of tar beneath the ground. Humanity claws for survival. Subways, mines, and bunkers fill with life-temporary cities buried in the dark. Down there, the air is cooler but stale. Generators hum weakly, powered by geothermal reserves. The people are pale, eyes strained from screens that replay images of a sky they will never see again. Children are born under artificial light that imitates a sun now too deadly to witness. Insects bred in labs replace bees. Fungi become food. Crops grow in vertical tunnels under LEDs powered by the planet's core heat. Outside, the world they left behind continues to transform. The oceans evaporate completely near the equator, leaving behind endless plains of salt and calcium, cracked and glittering like mirrors. Near the poles, where temperatures are slightly lower, strange life persists, microbial mats that feed on radiation instead of sunlight, forming glowing crusts along the thawing tundra. Evolution has no time, but desperation forces it anyway. Life refuses to vanish quietly. The atmosphere itself becomes an engine of destruction. Superheated air expands and contracts unevenly, generating storms of unimaginable violence. Winds roar across continents at more than 400 miles per hour, dragging sand and molten debris with them. Mountains are ground down grain by grain. Deserts consume everything that used to be fertile. The planet trembles constantly under the pressure of heat and shifting mass. And through all of this, the two suns continue their silent dance across the sky, twin blazes locked in a gravitational struggle that Earth cannot survive. Their combined pull begins to distort the planet's orbit. Days stretch, then collapse. Tides rise thousands of feet high, devouring coastlines already cracked by heat. After a month, there is no green left on Earth, no blue, no night, no sound of rain, just a scorched planet wrapped in steam and dust, glowing faintly between two merciless fires. The air glows orange at the horizon, white at the zenith. The world is illuminated, but nothing alive remains to see it. Yet far beneath the crust, in the silent dark, humankind endures fragile, stubborn, and waiting for the light to fade. Centuries blur into a steady, harsh brightness. The two suns no longer feel like an accident, they are background radiation, a permanent weather system that never sleeps. Surface temperatures fall from murderous peaks only at extreme latitudes and shadowed trenches. On most continents, averages stabilize somewhere between 120–180 degrees at the planet's shallow refuges, far too hot for the unmodified human body, but survivable with tech and adaptation. The first truth is brutal and simple. Most of what once walked the surface dies. Cities that couldn't be sealed melt into slag fields. Coastal metropolises are now salt flats. Their glass facades collapsed into glittering dunes. The great biodiversity that depended on predictable cycles collapses in waves. Coral reefs are gone. Tropical forests charred into reflective silver skeletons. Mammals with low heat tolerance, primates, ungulates. Many predators either vanish or retreat to marginal refuges. Only the hardiest microbes and radiation-tolerant extremophiles proliferate at first, colonizing the steaming plains and acidic lakes left behind. Humanity fractures into several survival pathways, each shaping a different future. The largest group becomes subterranean. Millions move into engineered caverns and deep mines retrofitted with life support. These underground cities, layered like honeycombs beneath old continents, run on geothermal generators and recycled water. They are dim, warm, and efficient. In the first centuries, survival here depends on brute engineering, sealed airlocks, heat exchangers, and LED farms. Culture narrows and hardens. Whole generations are born underground and never see a true sky. Their skin grows paler, eyes widen. Melatonin cycles are simulated with artificial lighting. Sleep becomes scheduled labor, a commodity managed by bureaucracies, parallel to the bunker masses. A techno-elite pursues genetic transformation. CRISPR, viral vectors, and synthetic biology evolve into practical tools for mass human redesign. Initial edits are pragmatic, up-regulated DNA repair pathways from Deinococcus-like genes to resist UV. Enhanced melanogenesis and reflective epidermal coatings to deflect intense radiation. Altered sweat gland density and improved heat shock proteins to tolerate sustained high temperatures. Eyes are modified, larger pupils. Protective nictitating membranes. New photopigments that favor longer wavelengths to reduce damage from high UV flux. Sleep genes. Clock. Are returned to function in continuous daylight, circadian rhythms loosen into flexible ultradian patterns. Lungs and blood chemistry are tuned to handle higher atmospheric particulate loads and elevated CO2. These edits don't come without cost. Fertility drops for the first few generations as gene drives settle. Unforeseen epistatic interactions produce new susceptibilities, autoimmune flare-ups. Metabolic syndromes. Cognitive shifts as neurochemistry adjusts. Culture diverges fast. Gene-modified communities cluster into sun-tolerant enclaves, reflective-skinned fisherfolk along high-latitude seas. Short-statured, heavy-boned miners adapted to deeper caverns. And lithe surface harvesters who farm radiation-tolerant algae along cooled polar margins. A third route is technological transcendence. Wealthy and networked cohorts upload neural patterns into substrate farms powered by the solar shield arrays and geothermal cores. Their minds persist as distributed processes in subterranean data centers and orbital nodes, not flesh, but cognition. Freed from metabolic needs, they explore the new environment as sensor swarms, probe beings, and curated memories. They become the keepers of large-scale planning, adjusting shields, orchestrating terraforming gambits, and seeding engineered ecosystems. To them, the surface is an exhibit. To the underground masses, uploaded kin are sometimes myth, sometimes governance. Space migration becomes a long shot, expensive exodus. A trickle of vessels, fusion-driven arcs, and cloud sail rigs lifted off in the early centuries, carrying a mixture of unmodified refugees, gene-modified specialists, and data uploads. Most fail. Launch windows are narrow, resources scarce, and the binary sun's gravity complicates trajectories. Still, Pockets of humanity seed orbital habitats and distant moons, becoming the long-term stewards of scattered, fragile civilizations. Biology itself improvises. Plants engineered for subterranean farms, non-photosynthetic crops fed by chemoautotrophic symbionts, and artificial energy gradients become staples. Outside, a new flora arises, silvery-leafed. Reflective succulents and fungi that harvest infrared and long-wave radiation. Microbial mats that metabolize ionized particles from the sun's flares. Insects mostly collapse. But bursts of novel arthropods evolve rapidly in the warm. Acidic margins. Many are small, fast-breeding and opportunistic, filling niches left by vanishing vertebrates. Predators shrink, becoming burrowers or scavengers adapted to low-oxygen microclimates. Society mutates alongside genomes. Rituals formed in the tunnels celebrate darkness as sacred, a new mythology that treats night as refuge and ancestors as literal keepers of cool places. Language compresses. Visual arts favor high-contrast tactile media. Economies recenter around life maintenance, air synthesis, water reclamation, and gene editing credits. Governance is local, modular, resilient. Trade persists as a network of convoys and license transfers, but centralized states fracture into technocratic guilds and cooperatives focused on habitat integrity. Ethics shift violently. The question of who gets edited becomes a moral and geopolitical fault line. Naturalists reject engineering and choose cryostasis, hoping future milder epochs will revive unaltered humans. They become a dwindling preserver class. Augmenters insist modification is survival. Scars from the initial collapse, infant mortality spikes. Famine. Cultural trauma leave deep psychological gouges. Collective memory is marked by a mythic before light that grows dim each generation. After millennia, selection stabilizes. Sun-adapted phenotypes proliferate in the thin pockets that skirt the surface. Uploaded minds maintain the knowledge apparatus. Subterranean populations become culturally distinct. Genetically unique, humans survive, but as a patchwork of forms: pale-eyed tunnel dwellers, reflective-skinned surface clans, scattered orbital colonies, and the disembodied intelligences that manage and remember. The species persists not as a single thing, but as an array, a distributed survival of intelligence that bears the marks of the two suns forever. 10,000 years after the arrival of the second sun, Earth has become a different kind of world, radiant, balanced, and alien. The chaos of heat and extinction has passed. What remains is adaptation turned into art. The sky is no longer blinding white. Layers of engineered gas and particulate mirrors drift high in the atmosphere, softening the dual light into shimmering gold. Temperatures hover between 120 and 160 degrees, stable enough for life that has learned to live in brightness. The oceans have returned, shallow and glowing, not blue, but copper and silver. Reflecting the twin stars above, humanity, too, has transformed. The survivors of the underground age and the gene-edited surface dwellers have converged into something new. Skin reflects light like polished metal, embedded with bioluminescent filaments that help regulate body heat. Lungs draw oxygen from thin air, blood chemistry neutralizes radiation. The average human no longer sleeps 8 hours. Circadian rhythm has been replaced by short cycles of rest and awareness that flow with the alternating pulse of two suns. Society has rebuilt itself around light. Cities shimmer along the polar rims, sprawling networks of mirrored towers that deflect radiation by day and absorb warmth by night. At their centers, energy flows freely, drawn from the constant solar flux that never fades. Power is no longer stored or mined. It circulates like blood through every structure. Farms grow in spirals beneath translucent domes, filled with plants engineered to thrive in extreme heat. Their leaves are silver green, designed to scatter sunlight while retaining moisture. Animals, too, have evolved fur replaced by scale-like fibers, eyes shielded by reflective membranes. The ecosystem is synthetic yet alive. a masterpiece of bioengineering that mimics the elegance of nature under impossible conditions. Technology and biology are no longer separate. Humans wear exoskeletal shells grown from living material. Cities self-heal from damage, and oceans clean themselves through engineered microbial reefs. The civilization of the twin suns doesn't conquer its environment. It negotiates with it. In orbit, thousands of reflective satellites hang like jewels, controlling the balance of heat between hemispheres. They double as communication nodes, carrying data through modulated beams of light. The descendants of the old digital minds, the ascendants still watch from above, guiding planetary weather, energy flow, and memory. They are humanity's collective consciousness, invisible but everywhere. Culture has shifted with the light. Religion dissolves into reverence for balance, no gods. No darkness, only harmony between fire and life. Festivals are painted across the atmosphere with orbital mirrors. The entire planet glows in synchronized color during the solstice of the twins. Music is no longer sound but light radiant patterns projected across cities, changing with rhythm and emotion. Even language has evolved. Words for day and night no longer exist. People speak instead of highlight and soft light. Shadows are art, sculpted deliberately in architecture as reminders of what the world once lost. But despite this perfection, the sky carries a constant reminder the two suns are slowly drawing closer. Astronomers or their post-human equivalents know that one day, perhaps in 5 million years, the stars will merge into a single, blinding nova. Yet there is no fear. The civilizations of the twin suns have already prepared to leave, building vessels woven from plasma-resistant matter, designed to sail on light itself. When that time comes, humanity will scatter once more, not as refugees, but as emissaries of light, carrying with them the lessons of a world that learned to live between two fires. Earth will vanish in brilliance, but its children will remember. And somewhere, across the endless dark, a new world will open its sky to two suns and begin the cycle again. When the second sun finally fades, Earth is no longer Earth. What began as chaos became creation, destruction reshaped into design. Humanity didn't survive the twin suns by fighting them, but by learning to speak their language. The planet that once burned found rhythm in the fire. Light, once a curse, became the foundation of everything: biology, culture, even thought. In the end, the story of two suns isn't about heat, or death, or apocalypse. It's about evolution, not of bodies, but of understanding. Every civilization faces its own kind of second sun, an overwhelming force, too powerful to resist, too bright to ignore. Some collapse under it. Others adapt and, in doing so, become something greater. From the cold tunnels of the early survivors to the radiant towers of the Solarborn. Every stage of humanity's struggle was a translation from fear to harmony, from instinct to intention. The world learned that balance doesn't come from controlling nature, but from synchronizing with it. One day, the two suns will collide, a final dance that will erase everything in a burst of energy bright enough to outshine galaxies. But nothing will truly die. The energy that once burned Earth will scatter, carrying within it the memory of everything that lived here. The data encoded in light, the consciousness preserved in photons. The genetic signatures of every being that dared to exist, all of it will drift outward, waiting for another world to catch it. And maybe, millions of years later, on a quiet planet circling a single star, someone will look up and see two suns reflected in a distant nebula. They won't know why, but they'll feel something: a faint, familiar warmth. Because light remembers, it carries every beginning, every mistake, every act of survival, and somewhere within it, there's still a whisper of who we were: a species that learned to live between two fires and turned catastrophe into creation.